users and abusers come before you. Because just like Alexander and his friends wanting to take him off and do whatever. Oh, come on, man, it's just fun. And knowing you can hurt yourself is my whole thing. And then, of course, you can get in trouble. You know, it's just, it can happen just like I was telling you. And there's a lot of things that you're a lot like me because we keep our mouths shut. Your actions have spoke louder to me than you. My actions have spoken louder to you than my words. And they will continue to do that. Because I care that much about you as a human being, as man, that you haven't even become yet. The transformation in front of me is amazing. From just the semesters that I've seen you from Tampa to here have been great. When I think about the first time I dropped you off there to where you sit today in front of me, what a blessing. The University of Tampa, I could never think enough. And it's funny because I don't see myself staying here, but here we sit. This isn't over. And why I say that is because if you think you're the only one that's been hurt, you're wrong. If I think I've been the only one that's been hurt, I'm wrong. When does it stop? When someone stands up. And I haven't had the strength to do that. Because I had a lot of other things going. What about you? What about him? What about this? What about that? And now you two have left me, and it's been good for me to be here alone. And know that you're safe. Where you're at, and him at, where he's at. And now we're going to come back together. Just like us making sure he's safe over there. And not stuck in that hotel thing. But I couldn't tell him. So it was like, no, you can do what you want. Let's go see. So we did. And he was like, oh, no, I'll stay there. I was like, yeah, that's where you're going to stay, but let's go see what you think you might want to do. Same thing with you. It's part of growing up. But for you to come at me and tell me how, no, it's not that way, you don't know what you're talking about, and instead of listening to me and respecting me and saying, wait a minute, this old woman might know something a little bit more than I do, stop and listen to people instead of formulating an opinion right off the bat. Because all that does is hurt you. Because if I formulated an opinion about you, I'd be very, you would know it. And when you start looking at you and how people see you, how do you want them to see you? What kind of opinion do you want them to formulate about you? Why I say that, and where I'm going with this, is that when I was talking about you, I didn't mean for it to be like I was putting you down or anything, because that's by no means what I was doing. When you walked away to hide, and I said, oh no, Christopher, come here, because I wanted you involved in the conversation, because you need to hear what everyone's talking about.
What are you talking about?
When I was talking to Mr. Flowers, and you didn't even realize you were walking around in a circle and walking away from me. And I hollered your name and said, no, you come here. This is about you. And you need to hear what we're talking about. And of course, I got busy and walked away and left you. But he got what I had told him, two sentences, he understood, because he's been through it. And until he told you that, you were over there thinking maybe I was talking bad about you, or you're a failure. You're not a failure. You're not. You're a great guy. And if I thought for a second that you didn't have the heart of a heart of gold and a good soul, I wouldn't piss on you. And that's where your dad has driven me to. Someone that I thought was all that, and he was. Trust me, he was. But just like you, I watched him change right before my eyes. Just didn't realize the extent of it. Because there's a lot of little things that drove me to my thinking. I've been very much present and very much right here through this whole ordeal. And it has been an ordeal. I have never in my life been so scared. Never. Begging, do what you want to me, leave those two alone. Like I said, you don't know me. One day you will. Some of the things that's happened. It's been sad. never wanted you to take sides to nothing. But I did need you to know the truth. I've never wanted you to take sides. And you weren't going anywhere. He wasn't taking you and keeping, it was, you were going together. But that never happened. And it's funny how God's made that work. The one person that I thought I could trust, I ended up couldn't. And it's really sad and hurt. Beyond hurt. If you could imagine. What that does to a person. Does it make me want to go out there and trust somebody? Would it you?
No.
No. No. And so what did I do? Sat right here and trusted one person. No, I've trusted 3. And it's been hard. I've been with him 30 years of my life. And it's been hard. Because out of that 30 years, he's been gone 7. It's 7 years now, because this is 19. But he was gone before that. And when he left here, the first time, what a relief it was for the 3 of us. And that was when you were about, what, 8?
I don't think.
No, Alexander was. You were 10. You were 10 years old. Maybe 11. I think you were 10. Why I was saying that is because I was trying to remember your 5th grade graduation he was at. Wasn't he?
I don't know.
He was not at Alexander's 5th grade graduation. You were and I were. He was at yours though. Because he was still here. And in 5th grade you would have been 10. Yeah. You were 11, you were a 6th grader. And then what were you doing in 6th grade? You were not in the band yet.
Mm-mm.
Do you remember when he first left to go to Panama City
No.
at all?
No, Mom.
You don't remember us making us cooler and stuff? And y'all were doing karate.
No. Karate was not at all close to that.
How long were you in karate for? 2 years?
Like 3 or 4.
No, you weren't in it that long.
Mm-hmm. Either 3 or 4.
I don't remember. I think 3.
Yeah, it was in high school.
It started in middle school.
No. We did it for 3 months one time. And that was when there was a huge gap whenever
Yeah, you would have been in 10th grade. It started in the 7th grade of Alexander's 7th grade. He was 12. You were 13. I mean, you were 14. You were in high school. You started 9th grade. Yeah, you're right.
and we did the adult classes, and even though we weren't supposed to because we were giants,
So big, yeah.
we would have literally killed the other kids.
Yep. That was in Alexander's 7th grade. And he was 12. 11, right? 6th grade is 11, 12, 12 years old. And you were 14, so you were 9. You're right. And then you did it up until you were in junior. You did 9th, 10th, and 11th, or 9th and 10th.
It was 3 to 4 years.
You weren't doing it as a senior. Mm-mm. You did it 9th grade and 10th grade.
No.
I don't remember.
I know it's 3 years at least because that's how long it takes to get a black belt. And we didn't rush it or anything.
True. You should go down there and talk to them.
About a job? Because
Yeah.
it would just be dealing with little kids.
Or doing whatever.
I would not be an instructor. They would never do that.
You wouldn't want to be.
That's the only thing I would want to be there. I wouldn't want to deal with the kids or be a janitor. That's like the...
They had a woman out there washing the bus.
Yeah.
And I thought you needed to be doing that.
A salute to one of Dad's most
Seriously.
important jobs. Add the gift of steel right now.
Sometimes it's just good just to sit back like you do and listen.
I'm not putting you down to anyone, Mom. I don't talk to anyone at all, Mom. No, you don't. You don't believe me at all.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about other people putting me down.
People don't. I don't talk to anyone who even talks about you, Mom.
No, not now.
Not now. Not ever. Literally, like,
2015. As a senior, he received All-American mentions and a scholarship from Arkansas. Today, he got the call from the Washington Nationals. They selected him in the 4th round of the Major League Draft. Cronin has been the premier closer in the SEC
Have we
for
missed
2 years
the
and broke
news? Yeah.
Arkansas' school record with 14 scholarship, but he still has 2 years of high school football left.
Wow.
Of course, BC and Northview, same colors, doesn't have to change any of the colors of his room or anything. So if that's
Being offered to go to
it's
college
going
and
to
you're not
be-
even a junior.
Oh, undoubtedly.
Yep.
Thanks, Dan. We'll see you in the second half. After the break, the governor's trip to Israel and what Florida taxpayers got for their money.
Strategize, revitalize, energize. Any ideas?
It's ridiculous.
In my opinion,
It's ridiculous
Dunkin' Bagels and cream cheese spread for $4 are
that
the best
our
deal
Florida
ever.
governor went to Israel
Not 100% related.
and did a cabinet meeting there.
Me too. You always have the best ideas. Write it down.
Ridiculous.
You missed the spread.
Because you do love him. I agree with Carrie's advice. We are all hoping for the best outcome. My heart breaks for this mom. It's the most painful experience to feel rejected by a child you've sacrificed so much for. Agree and pray. It never happens to me. My comments stem from experience, not as a mom, but as someone who worked in mental health crisis management for years. He may be 18, but anyone can petition for mental health evaluation if they believe someone is a threat to themselves or others. Diagnosis and prior illegal activities support the need. I was in shock when something similar to this happened to me and my son. His dad support in abusing and harassing me. It was the most devastating thing I've ever gone through, and I've survived an abusive marriage, a horrific custody battle, and then cancer. Thankfully, after lots of counseling and tough love, my son has, for the most part, turned things around. I can't tell you in words how much it has hurt to have him be so awful towards me. Kids can be so unstable, especially when they're going through so much. And yet they think a parent has to deal with all their shit, when in fact they don't, even if they're not 18. Because a parent as a person has rights, just like a child has rights, even though they think the parent is the person that is everything. But there's no guarantee that respect, disrespect, or whatever doesn't happen in other people's lives, because shit happens every day in everybody's family. I mean, families take each other for granted because you have to love me because you're my child. You don't have to love me. You don't have to like me. A parent will always love a child, but at some point, when do they say enough's enough to that child? And sometimes it takes a child's whole life to say that. But who wants to be at home at 40 years old? A lot of kids do. They never grow up. What is growing up? You've got to get out and experience life's good, bad, evils, indifferences, to know what life's about and to grow up. Because the experiences that you've had with me, you've already had. You learned everything you were going to learn from me by the time you were 13 years old. You could have been out on your own at 13 from me and gone and really felt like, let me live. But because the law here states that you got to stay there till 18, but parents don't have to take your shit. Teachers don't have to take the shit. Schools don't have to take it. They've got a place now. They put them right away. I mean, there is no more. Used to, you had, schools felt like the government was pretty much telling them that they had to keep you, and then it was like, these kids are more adult. That's why they take this threats and shit that kids say as joking seriously, because you never know how crazy somebody might be. How bad is their mental state? When you're sneaking out, when you're doing this, and you're sneaking out in the car, and okay, well, you sneak out in the car and you take the keys and no one knows you're in the car, and you get in a wreck, and then they're called and woken up saying, we've got your son, your daughter, and you're going, what? Or better yet, you go to your grandmother's house because, see, grandmother's part of the family, and you stole her car. I didn't steal it, I just borrowed it. She just didn't know it. That's stealing. And she can call and say, my car's been stolen, and it has happened, and then realize, oh my God, it was my grandson that had my car. But I didn't know it. He stole it. Because I went out to get in it, and it's gone. And no one's told me that they were taking my car or asked to borrow it. You cannot take advantage of people like that. Nobody can. But like I said, people don't have to take abuse either. Whether it be from your husband, your wife, your kids, your parents, your grandparents. Some men, old men, are just mean grandparents. And they really are. That sneaking friends in, doing shit while you're at work, and crap like that is bullshit. So I can understand why some parents at 18 can't wait for that day. And the day that happens, they have their little bags packed and they tell them, have a good life. Go figure it out. That's hilarious. That is sitting up while he's visiting there.
Mm-hmm.
It's very disrespectful. But it's freedom of speech, which is funny, but not funny.
Freedom of speech in the UK. Our Constitution doesn't apply there.
They have the same pretty much stuff.
Mm-mm.
In England, they do. It's very much like New York City, where I was. I was actually in England.
He looks even like that because he has to concentrate because sometimes.
Do you need to go outside? Will you take him and check them out, please?
Mm-hmm.